Intercultural competence is a lifelong pursuit. It is an interdisciplinary field that helps us to understand and use culture to achieve peace. This field has developed over the course of my lifetime and has become an integral element in much of what will be needed to bridge cultures and national interests in the 21st century. When you consider all of the knowledge base behind what constitutes intercultural competence, which I abbreviate to IC for short, you have to understand culture, which has many definitions and metaphors. I make a distinction between interculture as different conceptually from cross-culture. One would also need to understand what competence is more broadly and differentiate intercultural competence then from intercultural communicative competence. From all of that, understanding the effects of culture on one's perception of the world or your own group's meaning making of what certain behaviors signify becomes a core part of the theoretical knowledge foundations. Then, with all of that knowledge in hand, one needs to understand themselves as a cultural and intercultural person. What would intercultural competence mean to you in your professional life? I personally posit the pursuit of intercultural virtues if you choose to continue with these presentations all the way to the last one, but that would be my recommendation. This video series is available and as a reference and will establish all of this knowledge regarding intercultural competence. But what is intercultural competence and why pursue it in the first place? This video series is designed to guide any individual interested in pursuing intercultural competence as a personal competency through a process of understanding culture, the effects of culture, cultural conflict, and a personalized project that may extend from that knowledge to waging peace in one's own life. So as we go, consider these questions regarding what you are as a human, what cultures you belong to, and who you are in relationship to those cultures. From that position, how do you tend to relate with others from other cultures? If you have never been in an intercultural situation, then you might anticipate the answers. But if you have, what has changed about you after having sojourned in a foreign place and encountered the other out there? But also perhaps encountered the new other that you may have become in relation to your own cultural group members upon your return. The encounter with the other is not just an encounter with the other to learn, but as you encounter others, you will also see and know the other in yourself, which results in a process of growth under the right circumstances. From the perspective of Paulo Freire, the Brazilian educational philosopher, encountering the other results in a dialogue. Whenever you find or interact with new information, new people, you can have an internal dialogue in your own mind where that information enters into a dialogic relationship with that which you already know and have experienced. This is the first order of dialogue inside the person's own mind. Let's agree to call this intrapersonal dialogue. As you listen to these videos or read about intercultural competence, you should ask yourself if you understand what the person is saying, whether it fits with your previous knowledge and experience. This may upset you. If it does, stop and spend time with the ambiguity created in that feeling of strangeness or upsettedness. What questions now do you need to ask yourself or the author of the text? As this is all on YouTube, you can use the commentary to ask these questions or comment there. Feel free to do so. Before we can look at intercultural competence, though, our first order of business is to define culture and to consider the complexities and variety of definitions that help us account for culture to understand it better in our way to understanding its effects. To that end, we'll look at some cultural analogies in a subsequent video presentation. But first, think, what is culture? Well, some would say culture gives us a perspective on the world. Others would provide analogies as metaphors and say culture is like an onion or something else. Culture is a relatively new concept in human history that, if it had existed, might have prevented some genocides or at least stopped them earlier. So we'll also talk a bit about the origin of culture and consider a variety of definitions. All of that should result in you creating your own working definition of culture, one that you can take forward to help you understand the most important aspects of culture to you. It can be a long definition or a simple short one, or you can simply adopt one of mine or one of the other interculturalist definitions that will be presented. But if we consider culture as perspective, we can see that some people see an old woman in this picture, while others immediately perceive a young woman in the picture here. What do you see? Intercultural competence is like being able to see both of these women, but also understanding that culture is a perspective that conditions how we see the world. In this way, culture is a technology for peace, and that's why one would want to become ultimately interculturally competent. So culture is like a lot of things that you can think of. Some say it's like a fish in water or like an onion. Others prefer to say that it's an iceberg or a pair of eyeglasses. Think about these and perhaps some others that you might like to consider as proper analogies or metaphors for culture that help you understand the dynamic depths of the concept. Personally, I prefer to say that culture is like a boat on a river, and I'll share that in another video. Well, I use these videos as presentations for the courses I teach on intercultural competence. They're also freely available for anyone to watch. So please feel free to like it or just subscribe to this channel as you see fit, share it with others. Your feedback is valuable to me to make sure that things are clear, and may you find the peace that you are looking for.